This is Writers Not Writing, the show where you can get to know your favorite writers and soon-to-be favorite writers by listening to them confess to the ways they procrastinate. Thanks for procrastinating with us. I'm Benjamin Gorman, and the quiet guy behind the glass there is Doug the producer. I write novels and collections of poetry and stuff. Doug tries his best to make me sound better. And each week we have a secret word to listen for. If you catch it, you earn the right to take an extra break at the time of your choosing from whatever is stressing you out. From Not a Pipe Publishing, welcome to Writers Not Writing.
Today's secret word is ghost children.
Welcome, everybody. Today's guest is Brian Parker. Brian is the co-owner of Believe in Wonder, a youth-focused publishing company in Beaverton, Oregon. He's an author, illustrator, and educator with over 20 books to his credit, and currently he's an adjunct professor at Portland State University in the English department. Welcome, Brian. I'm very, very glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm ecstatic to be here.
So as regular viewers know, we always dress up in costume like this. This is, part of the thing, but the folks who are listening to the podcast can't see us. So tell everybody about the costume you chose to wear today.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to say it's 90 degrees outside, so it's incredibly hot in this.
Yes,
so,
it is warm.
Yeah. I'm dressed as a large male badger, but not like your typical badger. I've got like a Smith's smock, a large hammer, maybe a mace standing next to me, a big hat with a jaunty feather. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
Yes.
I like that the peacock blue of the feather matches the belt. I think that was a really good choice.
I appreciate that. Yeah, accessorizing is the thing that I don't think people appreciate that.
It's you got to get the details right. I wanted to match, so I went with an otter. I've got the full otter costume on, and like you said, it is a warm day to be in a full costume. But
yes.
I wanted to be an otter that would kind of fit, my character. So he's got a very thin sword. It's almost a foil, a thin sword, and then an eye patch. But I'm realizing now that the eye patch during this interview is probably going to give me a headache. So I'm just going to flip the eye patch up for the whole interview. So folks who are listening to the podcast will have to,
you really nailed it.
Yeah, an otter with an eye patch flipped up and a nice short sword, and a badger with a hammer and a mace. That's we got this. I'm more roguish.
Yes, we're on an adventure. And you've got to embrace it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's a show about procrastination, what we're doing when we're not writing. So what has been pulling you away from your writing this week?
Oh, what's not pulling me away from my writing this week?
Yeah, you're in the editing phase, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm actively avoiding my own work because I had a moment of pure hatred of all of my words.
Yep,
so I am diving into Assassin's Creed Odyssey and just trying my best to not melt down whenever I sit and look at a blank page or a page covered with red marks is really my fear right now.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a great game. I played that one. I think I played it through the main storyline, and then there's still plenty after. But that's a beautiful game, like visually beautiful.
Man, I'm telling you, I mean, the amount of world that they can construct. I mean, the deep mythos that you're working through this, and all of this stuff is Greek mythology. I love this stuff, and when I look up, I'm like, my wife's like, it's dinner time. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to eat. And she's like, everyone's eaten already and gone to bed. You've been playing the whole time.
You need to take your family to Greece at some point. So after playing that game, I took my son last summer, and we would be up on these places looking from the high vantage point, and he's looking around going, they got it right. The game really is, provides you with this kind of overlay where you're seeing modern Greece, and then you're like, and I'm in Assassin's Creed right now, and I can see the ancient world here. It's so take your kids, make your kids play the game, and then take them.
that would be because I keep telling them it's a learning experience.
Right? Well, your kids might be a little young to be stabbing people. How old are your kids now? Or
mine's are real little, so they're like 8, and one's about to turn 6
Yeah,
next week.
Assassin's
But
Creed for a 6-year-old.
I know, but he's doggedly trying to get me to let him play it, and I'm
Yeah,
like, a little less slaughter for you until you've come of age. So
my son is a total gamer, and we started off with like, no, we're not going to have you play anything where you're killing anybody, and then it
yeah,
would verge to like, okay, you're shooting aliens. They're clearly not human. That's okay. And now, at some point you just go, he's playing everything. But
I feel your pain. I feel
yeah,
your
yeah. And
pain.
then what else have you been doing in the neighborhood?
Oh man, we've been well, we have this kind of shock art, like it's not really even an established like event, but whenever we come out, my neighbor right across the way here, the two of us come out with our giant boxes of sidewalk chalk, and all the kids come out of their house and they descend on us. And then we just spend the next 2 hours just doing chalk art. It's amazing because not only are we getting some of that creative juice flowing, but kids get to see adults doing
Art.
art that's inspiring and exciting. They're excited about, and we're very encouraging to the kids with whatever they do. So if it's like a Pokemon or it's like a character from a video game or just a giant pile of like colorful scribbles, it's like, oh man, that's beautiful expression. We love that. That is
Well,
awesome.
I love the dragon you posted. I encourage folks to follow your accounts online because you post pictures of. That's where I saw the dragon chalk art, and I was like, "Oh, this is chalk art at the next level. Like this is very cool stuff." So yeah, people should absolutely check that out, and then just be envious that they don't live in your neighborhood.
Oh man. Oh, and if you're in this area, we're going to be at La Strada de Pastile in July, which is a chalk art event, and we're going to be there along with a lot of other chalk artists and stuff. So
Oh, how
yeah,
cool!
yeah, come and check us out doing our thing.
Yeah, that well, what a great thing. Yeah, and you're right. For kids to see, art is for everyone. Like,
Yeah,
that's in so
yeah,
many ways. I want my students to see art is not something other people do. It's what you're the artist when you walk into my classroom. Like, we
exactly.
read these other people because you're a part of that group,
Yeah.
and that's hard for them to
Oh,
see sometimes.
it's weird. It's hard for grown-ups too. I mean, my art friend across the street, she says, I'm not really an artist. I just like to do the art with you. I'm like, no, embrace your
Yeah,
weirdness. Let your art freak flag fly.
yes,
Taking her a minute.
absolutely. So, what about in the news? What's been pulling you away from your work this week?
Oh, I mean, I know the news is just kind of overarching kind of craziness these days. And I don't know if it was really this depressing before, but it's definitely kind of bogs you down now, especially with the writer's strike going on.
Yeah.
And majority of the actual news I ever watch is through the sieve of comedy. So I don't have a Colbert, I don't have a
Yeah, that's
Seth
true.
Meyers, I don't have a John Oliver to see it through. So a lot of things hit hard, but yeah, like that just kind of heartbreaking moment in Mississippi where the boy was
Oh,
shot by the police when they came to his door after he called them.
he called
Uh,
them.
yeah, he called them. He did exactly what the social contract says you should do, which is you know reach out to authorities and
Yeah.
all of that. And that was what he was met with. So I mean, I understand some of
Oh,
that anguish that's in that community right now because I got two little ones, so I'm always telling them police are your friends. Police
right.
are the ones that you're supposed to call. And then in moments like this, I'm like, but maybe don't call them right away. Like
Right.
go
Yeah.
ask a neighbor first or something. But
Well, but this is a terrifying story. Did you hear about this woman in Florida yesterday? It was day before
no.
yesterday. Oh my gosh, this is so awful. So her two children playing in a field, black woman, her children,
Yeah.
white woman comes into the like field between their houses and says, "You have to get out of here. You're not allowed to play around here."
Wow.
She ends up in this altercation with children and
Yeah.
grabs like an iPad from one of them
It,
and throws it at him. So the
uh,
mom very reasonably does
yeah.
what you or I would do and goes
Yes.
over not to attack the woman, not to just to talk with her,
Yeah.
knocks on the door, and the woman opens the door and immediately shoots her dead.
Oh my God. See,
And
this
and
is
it's good. I mean, she's just being a good parent and
yeah,
going and saying, what are you doing kicking my kids out of this field? And,
yeah.
and the woman who shot her has not even
Uh-huh.
been charged because it's
Oh,
Florida. Stand your ground. She's allowed to
oh,
shoot someone on her porch.
oh. That just it's
Isn't
what
that just? And so I read this story and I just feel like my heart breaks for this person. And what can you do for everyone in the community? What do you do when you feel like this is just something that is allowed? You could
yeah,
just be shot knocking on someone's door saying, "Hey, don't throw things at my children." Like,
yeah. And that's the thing is that you want to believe that, like Martin said, that the arc is
yeah.
bending towards justice, but sometimes it feels like there's a hand in the way of the arc building bending that way. So
Well, I
that's
think in the
why
last
it's
couple of
really
years,
important for me and for my family. We always try to lean in, and we're like, if you want change, you got to be there, you got to be present, you got to be active, and that's the lesson I try to take away from it. Is that yeah, yeah,
because that's all you can do, right? I mean, that's the only way you can go, okay, I can't do anything for that family, but I can lean in, right? Because otherwise
exactly,
you'd go mad.
yeah,
I think some of that, maintaining our the kind of blessing of that idea that the arc of the universe bends towards justice is just
yeah,
just believing it. Like
yeah,
I have to hold on to that. Not
I,
because it's
yeah.
necessarily even going to be true in my lifetime, but I have to believe it, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I'm totally of the mind of manifestation that you got to put it out there into the universe for it to come back to you. So I'm like, if I'm putting positivity out there, it's got to be turning into something somewhere. Some kid somewhere is running through a field full of daisies, and small elves are bringing them cupcakes, and
Or
I help that. I help
yeah,
that.
or they're reading your books and going, I can do this now. Like
Yeah.
I feel permission now to
Yes.
engage in this art. Like that's, I mean, I feel like that's, and you're right, in your work, it's I get to go into this other world now and go
Yes.
to this safe place. And also I can engage in creating worlds. I mean, I think that's
See,
wonderful.
definitely. That's why we do it. That's why we
Yeah.
do it is to give people permission to dream.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
Uh,
so hobby wise, what are you doing when you're not writing lately?
oh man. I waffle most of the time because it's a funny thing about doing the thing that you love to do for a living. Um, I always feel like sitting here and working is actually my fun work. But I'm trying to teach myself other stuff. Like right now, I'm making Dungeons and Dragons characters for
Oh,
people.
very cool.
Yes, and I don't know. I don't know what am I doing for fun. I'm playing video games. I'm doing world building all the time. I'm constantly expanding my story worlds and stuff like that. And I don't know. I'm getting into
Yeah.
making me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the D&D characters, for you, it's more humans than normal. You're
Yeah,
actually, like you're actually drawing a lot of people.
yeah. I love drawing figures.
Yeah.
People, creatures, animals. I love anthropomorphic animals too.
Yes, I love your work with that, with the animals of various kinds in
Yes. Oh
these
man, Brian
fantasy.
Jacques ruined me forever. I read Redwall when I was like 11, and then just blasted through all the books, and
Yeah,
now it lives rent free in my
yeah,
soul for the rest of my life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read when you were a kid? Did you read Watership Down ever?
I did. I
That
did.
one's creepy.
I'm
I mean,
telling
it's a
you.
beautiful book. Like I love it, but
Yeah.
it is
It
haunting.
pulls no punches. No,
Yeah,
no punches at all. And
yeah.
that's the funniest thing about the difference between like kid literature and even animated films during that time period is that they did not
No.
they did not like smooth it over for your small child's constitution. They just like, nope,
Yeah.
it's gonna get rough.
The animated version of The Hobbit when we were kids.
Yep. The
That
Rankin Bass version, yeah,
yeah,
and
the
the
scene where the Hobbit gets where Bilbo gets trapped by the trolls in the mountain, or not
yeah,
trolls, goblins. I think they're
I got
goblins in the
yeah.
mountain. Was super creepy when I was a kid. I was like, this is
Yeah.
genuinely terrifying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I love. I mean, it was the same studio that made it, but like the Last Unicorn
Oh yeah,
was, I mean, so melancholy and
yeah.
about
It's
it.
grim.
Yeah, and it's some really deep themes, but it was a children's movie, so I'm
Right.
like, yeah. When I show it to my kids, they're like, "Dad, is this for us?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is. Lean
Well,
in."
I feel like it's the next generation had to grow up with those to then be able to make Spider-Man, the newest
Yeah,
Spider-Man. Like,
yeah,
oh yeah, we can make animated stuff that is very much available to adults. I mean, it is, for adults, and at the same time, it is very accessible to kids because we respect kids enough to go, they can
oh yeah,
handle this.
oh yeah.
My son and I went and saw the new one. Have you seen it yet? The new Spider-Man?
Oh no, I'm
I will
gonna
not
see it this
spoil anything.
weekend. Yeah.
You will love it so much as an artist because each world they go into is a different art style, just like in the
Oh
first one, but
yeah,
it is at the next level. Like they have
that
gone
is that
so
is
far
mind
beyond. There's
blowing.
there's one world, this is not a spoiler at all. This is in the first scene, but there's one world where the backdrops are all watercolor that is like it's computer animated so that it looks like the watercolor got too much water and it's
Yeah.
dripping in the background. It's beautiful. And so you're watching this and you're just going, my son will go see it tomorrow for the fourth time. And he's already seen it four times. I mean, he's got a tattoo of Spider-Man. Like he loves
Yeah,
anything Spider-Man. And he's every time he sees it, he's seeing more. It's so
yeah.
rich.
Oh,
So
that's amazing. I'm so stoked to see it, and that's most of my artist friends or comic friends or whatever. They're like, going back again,
yeah.
going back in,
Oh
so
yeah.
they've
You
seen it
will
like two
love
or three
this.
times.
Yeah, and you're just you'll see so much more than I do. Even as an artist, you're just gonna be
Oh
going, oh my
man,
gosh, the stuff they're doing. Like, yeah,
I
because
just have to make sure
they
not to
keep
bring a
the line
sketchbook.
work, like the really subtle
Yeah.
line work on
Hmm.
the, but only for some of the characters. So it's
Yeah.
like they're from a world where they have jaw lines, and this
Yeah.
character's not, and he's painted in oil, and then this
Yeah.
other character's in. It's brilliant. Like it's so clever.
I'm excited. It's
Yeah,
it's
you
gonna it's
will.
gonna be mind blowing. It really is. I
Okay.
love what the studio's done. Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's so cool. So for our next segment, part of the point of the whole show is to help readers get to know you, and I figure one of the great ways to do that is to talk D&D. What
Yes.
would be if you were in D&D, what would be your race and class? And you as an individual.
Okay. Now I don't have any of my previous notes. I know we had spoke about this before, and I'm trying. I make so many D&D characters. I keep swapping back and forth between them, but I think I remember. Um, I really love dwarves. I mean, dwarven culture, dwarven imagery. I've always just gravitated towards it, and the idea of the dwarven artificer or the weaponsmith. I love that. Even in my Nicholas book, I kind of allude to it with hammers and making and that whole thing. So I would be dwarven artificer or sword mage of some sort. Uh, that way I can cast and still get into the melee, get
Oh yeah.
dirty. But afterwards, I'm somebody's like, hey, I need a magic bow that I can like conjure arrows with, and I'm like, I got you.
Yes,
Give me
that
a month.
that fits you perfectly. The person who wants to be making art. Like at any
Oh,
point, I would rather be making art right now. Right?
yeah.
Like yes, absolutely.
Oh
Okay,
man.
so
Yeah.
ambush. You get
Hmm.
ambushed. You're
Yeah.
ambushed by three. They're just level one goblins. What do you
Yeah.
do?
Okay. Well, first off, I would generally when I get a character like this, I kind of multi-class a little bit. So I pick up some bard. All right. I got a little bard mixed in there. So first thing I always do is I try to see if I can convince them that they don't really want to fight me. So if it's intimidation, maybe, if it's, hey, guys, I'm so glad you're here. I've been waiting for you for the last 2 days. Did you bring the stuff? And they'll be like, what? What?
And by the
So,
end, talk them into giving you something.
exactly, exactly. Or if I'm there with a party of people and I got rogue buddy that got that backstab, I'm like,
I'll just
y'all
talk
are
to
just
them and
trying
you
to
do
hide
what
in the
you do.
bushes. Yes.
Nice. Excellent. Okay, well, let's go to our break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you about what you've been daydreaming about lately.
Yeah. Sounds good.
This week's show is brought to you by Mikko Azul's The Staff of Fire and Bone and its sequel, The Rod of Wind and Iron. In The Staff of Fire and Bone, half-demon Cedrin Varkaris is on the run. He survived among his father's people as an Askari, sequestered behind the castle walls for his own safety. The Askari people tolerated his existence until age 15, when his demonic powers manifested. Despite being the son of a powerful regent, the Askari hate and fear him. The Shaili, his demon mother's people, hunt him as an abomination that must be destroyed. Magic is forbidden in Askari Bar, and Cedrin's powers are uncontrolled. Death and destruction follow him as he grapples with learning to use his abilities with disastrous results. With no safe haven to hide him, and few to trust, Cedrin must overcome a millennium of prejudice to acquire the 4 sacred elemental stones from the different peoples of Moralia. He needs them to create a talisman that may unify the various peoples of his world against the great demon Laylar, whose banishment nears its end. With little hope of redemption or thwarting Laylar's plans, Cedrin and his companions take heroism to a shocking new level. The choices they make and sacrifices they endure push them further than they ever expected possible, and the fate of all Moralians hangs in the balance. In The Rod of Wind and Iron, the adventure continues, with more complicated challenges and higher stakes. Although Cedrin has acquired Ration, the Staff of Fire and Bone, he knows it won't be enough to save his world from the ravages it faces. The Garanth army marches against the Askari, slaughtering everyone in their path and razing fields and towns alike. Meanwhile, an indestructible horde created by dark magic bears down on the Shaili, intent on destroying all life in Moralia. Amidst the chaos and death, Cedrin and Senna Kral, the daughter of a notorious spy, become unwilling allies. Senna's goal is to restore her father's reputation and save her city from total annihilation. Cedrin's quest is to acquire the lost Windstone of Yesmerantha, which is essential in creating the only weapon that could potentially challenge the great demon Laylar. Natural enemies, Senna and Cedrin devise an uneasy and temporary truce in order to achieve their ends. Betrayal is inevitable. Trust is impossible. Hope and time are running out. Order your copies of The Staff of Fire and Bone and The Rod of Wind and Iron today. Authors, poets, playwrights. As some of you know, we participate in an annual fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association called The Longest Day. On that day, people around the country and around the world do all kinds of things like walkathons and knitting and mountain climbing, and they ask their friends and families to make donations for their efforts to the Alzheimer's Association to support care for families and research to find a cure for Alzheimer's. I participated in a few walks and then said to myself, "Self, you are mediocre at walking and do not have a bunch of awesome friends known for their walking ability, but you can write and know a whole lot of other writers." So back in 2018, Not a Pipe Publishing put together our first Writing Against the Darkness team, and we've been going strong ever since. Here's the ask. You can join our team with a few clicks. If you want to, you can buy a t-shirt for the fundraiser, but that's not required. Then you post to your social media a few times asking your friends and family to pledge to support you. On Wednesday, June 21st, we all hop on a Zoom call together early in the morning to say hello, wish one another luck, and then we write from dawn until dusk, 5:24 a.m. to 9:04 p.m. here at my latitude. It's a long day, but don't worry, you can take all the breaks you want. In fact, if a Wednesday doesn't fit into your work schedule, you can do your longest day on another day before or after. The Alzheimer's Association won't turn your donations away. At the end of the day, we share out our word count and total them up and see how many words the team has written in a day, and how badly John Dover, author of Once Upon a Fang in the West, has beaten us by every year. It's fun, productive, and raises money for a good cause. If you'd like to participate, there is a link in the show notes. We would love to have you on our team. So come join our Writing Against the Darkness team and write with us for a good cause. Thank you. So I'm here with Brian Parker today. Brian, what have you been daydreaming about lately?
I tend to spend a lot of time thinking about like really weird, big existential stuff, like, what is the order of the universe? How does, quantum theory tie in with, the past, present, and the future? And I've been on this kick about the ideas of order and chaos, and how typically we're taught that, order is good, chaos is evil. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. Within nature, chaos, usually breeds some level of creation, while order sometimes can stagnate creation. So that means that it's not necessarily good or bad. But the cool thing is that if you see where order and chaos, where the borders between the two kind of mesh, that's where all the good stuff happens. Is that overlap? If it was like a Venn diagram, that space where they kind of become one thing, that's where creativity, um, love, music, all of that stuff. That's where it happens, is in that space. And even if you think about it and on that kind of string theory kind of concept of vibration, what is a vibration if not a thing oscillating between one extreme and another, and then all the stuff that happens in between? So I've been thinking about that a lot, and then tying that into stuff and the story stuff and magic and all kinds of things. So yeah, I've been daydreaming about that.
Love that. There's a philosopher, Greek philosopher, Epicurus, who had this idea that you would love called the atomic swerve. And his idea was that if everything is orderly, nothing would ever be created. Everything would just be a blob. Like everything's fine. And so the only reason that anything exists is at some point, something must have just gone out of whack.
Yeah.
That then generates everything. And so some atom swerved and began a universe, which I think is a beautiful idea. Like, I don't know how well that fits with our sense of the Big Bang or anything, but the atomic swerve, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. I mean, if an inert universe where the two chaos and order were separated forever, it's just a moment when they finally kind of like accidentally bing, and then the whole thing.
Well,
So
I love the
atomic swerve.
The atomic swerve, isn't that great? I love the idea of the multiple universes theory that, which we would never know because we would be in a universe other than any other. So we can't know what they're like. But the theory is that all of them are kind of overlaid on top of one another, and they're not actually infinite because there are some of them where there wasn't a swerve, essentially. So there are some that would have been pure energy, and the energy just went, and that one's gone now. And there are some that were way more matter, and the matter just falls in. And so that one's gone now.
Yeah.
But we live in this kind of Goldilocks zone of this is one where it didn't fly out too fast. It didn't fly out too slow. And so the question of why is our universe the way it is not because it's the best. It's because it's the only one where we can be. Right. Yeah. And so we're in this one. And so I joke about that all the time. When Trump was elected, I'm like, this is the worst universe.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? Why I wish we could be in a different one where things went differently. The fun thing about that idea for us as authors is if that is the case, everything we can possibly imagine does exist in another universe.
Yes.
So like your badger costume that you're wearing right now.
Yes.
There is a universe where there are sentient badgers with maces sitting here having this conversation over Zoom. That is a real place. We're just not in it.
Drinking tea and eating like an oat cake of some sort.
which then changes our role as writers. We are not actually imagining so much as we are communicating something that exists from another universe.
Exists somewhere else. Yeah, we are.
Isn't that cool?
We are the medium in which we communicate this thing that exists out in the ether somewhere.
You are a journalist of another universe.
Oh man! Oh dude!
Isn't that cool?
That's like the title of a book right there.
Right? I think that's super fun. Like those are the kinds of ideas where I'm just like, oh, that is really cool. Everything I can possibly conceive, I'm just being a journalist for another universe. And then it changes our obligation as fiction writers. I need to tell this story correctly because I'm telling the truth. The truth of another universe.
Exactly. It does take some of the weight off of you a little bit because you're like, I'm not having to pull this out of nowhere. It's being translated into me through something. I
just have to tell it accurately. I'm telling this story correctly. This really is what happened to this giant badger. Like, that's it. Isn't that great?
I love it. I love it so much. I'm writing that down too. So many notes.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find out about what's going on with you right now?
Well, we're in a couple of different places. You can check us out at our website, which is www.believeinwonder.com. I'm also pretty active on Instagram, so that's believeinwonder_hub, and we like to post a lot of photos of the chalk art, hanging out with the kids, whatever projects we got going on and stuff. So you can definitely catch up on all the stuff that we're doing creatively and community wise. And we're also on Facebook. So just search hashtag Believe in Wonder. You pull up all our stuff, or you can look for me, Brian W. Parker. And yes,
excellent. Well, I encourage, and of course we'll link to all those in the show notes as well. So folks are, if somebody is out there driving right now, please don't go check out the website until you can pull over safely and check the show notes. But yes, we want to encourage people to do that.
Take your time.
So each week we run a weekly poll, and I'm pulling up right now the poll from this last week to see the results. This came to us from Jason Brick, and he asked, let me find it here. It was pho versus dim sum, I believe. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We had one more recently than that. This was from E.D. Jones last week. E.D. Jones, who's the author of Ferryman and Bull by the Horns in the anthology Written with Pride. He asked, vampires versus werewolves. That was it. Vampires versus werewolves. Where would you fall on that one?
Vampires versus werewolves. I'm always going to land on werewolves just for sheer physical strength and rage, and anybody who's had a small toddler knows that rage can do a lot to add to your strengths and abilities. So
and I'm not entirely surprised that you went werewolves, because from a visual perspective, they are, aesthetically speaking, far more interesting looking than vampires.
Definitely.
Blend in. I'm a vampires guy because I love the kind of philosophical question of, what does true eternal life do to your sanity? I think that's a really interesting thing to. In my most recent series of novels, I've got both, because I think they're both really fun to write about. But yes, so that one, the poll came out and I just clicked away from it. Vampires versus werewolves. Only 38% were with me on vampires. Werewolves won handily. So people are with you on that one. 61% said werewolves. So how about you? What's your idea for our poll for this next week?
Oh, let's see. I don't know. I've been on a kind of a scary movie kick lately, and I like to. I'm not the type that kind of dives into this stuff very easily because I get spooked. But I've asked my wife this question. I'll ask your listeners this question: what's scarier, clowns or ghost children?
Oh, both scary. Yes, that will be a good one. I am very curious to see what the results of that one are. Clowns or ghost children? Okay, yes. I will put that up, and so that'll be on the Not a Pie Publishing page. And that is just trying to kind of tease it out myself. I'm like, oh, they're both terrifying.
They're both kind of horrible, aren't they?
Oh yeah. So what's in your to read pile? What are you looking forward to reading coming up?
Oh, I've got a couple of things. I'm really bad about, if I see a book that looks really cool, I'll just buy it and add it to my list.
Oh yeah, me too. Mine is.
It just keeps growing.
Oh yeah.
But right now I'm reading Lockwood and Co. Well, I'd like to read the rest of the books of Lockwood and Co. by Jonathan Stroud, and it had a really great Netflix show first season, and I really enjoyed it. And then it got canceled. So now I got to read the rest of the book.
Yes, the Pencil Pushers decided. I really enjoyed that show too, and I had not heard that it had been canceled, but I'm not surprised. They're canceling stuff left and right now.
It's like, give it a chance. Let it find an audience. Yeah.
But I didn't know that was Jonathan Stroud novel. So
Jonathan Stroud. It's really good. I mean, really good writing. So I'm happy that now I can actually find out how the story.
Yeah. Well, I just so I'm reading right now Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind. Have you read that one before?
Oh no, but it's like fantasy, like it's in the higher echelons.
Exactly. Some friends of mine said they said to me, "Oh, it's my favorite book," and I was like, "How have I not heard about this?" So I'm about halfway through it right now, and loving it. You will love it. It's so good. And the reason it came to my attention is I read an article saying, yeah, the third part in the trilogy that we've been waiting for decades is, who knows? It was the weirdest article. It was like, hey, headline, still nothing. So I don't know if we'll get the part 3, but let me tell you, the part 1 is really, really good. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. So I'll
Now
link
I've
to
got to
both
add that to my
Lockwood and
list.
Co. and the Name of the Wind in the show notes as well. Folks can check those out.
Yeah.
And then you already mentioned your contacts: Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. What is going on? You are working right now on which book? Because we do want to get.
Yeah. Let's see. 2019. The first book of the Epic of Nicholas the Maker came out, which was called The Silver Heart, and I love it because I'm a huge Santa Claus fan. I consider myself a Santa expert. So I wanted to write a mythology about Santa's earlier days and him learning about his abilities. So right now I'm writing this. I'm finished the second book and editing and getting ready to have it released this fall. So it's called The Verdant King. And each of the books is going to happen in a different season. So it starts winter. I mean, this one's spring. I got summer coming, and then there's a fall book, and then it comes back around to winter, and that'll be the end of the series. So it's 5 books total.
That's cool. So I like and Verdant. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, okay. So but it will come out this fall.
It'll be out this fall. Yeah, it's done. I'm just finishing it up and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and getting all the illustrations and stuff going. So it's a lot of fun. It's been so much fun. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, let me do our thank yous and then we'll come to our bits of advice for everybody. So before we get to our send-off, thanks to the artist Max Oakland, who reached out and provided one of his songs for our intro, I Prefer the Dusk. Let Max know you like it by following him on Twitter at Max Oakland with 3 Ds. Thanks to Halizna CCO for their song Kids for the ad break. If you're in a band and would like your song used on the show, I would love to highlight a listener's work like Max's song, so email me about that. Thanks, as always, to Doug, the producer, for making this show sound good and taking the blame when it doesn't. And I cannot forget to mention, Writers Not Writing is a production of Not a Pipe Publishing. So please go to notapipepublishing.com, check out the amazing books by writers who didn't procrastinate too much. If you like this show, rate and review it wherever you found it. And please check out not all Brian's books, and tell friends about them and give them that little, give them the 5th star and a short review. It makes a huge difference to authors. So make Brian's day, click that 5th star, give him a review. And of course, do the same for the show. That would be really nice. So Brian and I have some advice for all the listeners for this next week. Brian, what would be your first piece of advice for folks?
I would say keep shining bright. The world needs you. It needs your light and your passion. So don't let it get dim. Keep shining.
Love it. Second, in life, as in writing, it's the spaces between the words that make it all meaningful. A book without spaces would not be much of a book, and your life needs spaces too. So take those spaces. And third, no matter how much you procrastinate, we're still proud of you.
If I take my time